Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Finnie Robinson. I'm delighted to be hosting this panel for us, and I am an Eco America board member and thrilled to be part of the inner workings of this amazing organization that has put on quite a climate leadership summit this year, all online and all incredible. I'm sure everyone agrees. And for this session, we're really going to take it personal and into our own homes. We know, we've heard a couple of times a statistic that says that more and more people in this country are concerned and even alarmed about climate change and want to know what they can do and what can they do in their own lives, like right now, today. And so one of the things that they can do is just start talking about the changes that they're making, because it turns out, as we've heard, that so many people don't realize that everyone else, of course, is alarmed and concerned about climate change, especially as we continue to see the ongoing extreme weather events that our scientists have predicted for now decades with increasing alarm and also accuracy. So we have two amazing panelists here today to describe to us some resources and mechanisms for bringing some really powerful impacts into your everyday life, making it much more easy and convenient and affordable than you can even imagine. And we'll hear all about that. So I would like to introduce them both. First, we're going to start with Kieran Batrajou, who's the founder and CEO of Arcadia. And by way of introduction, Kiran, I'm going to lob you a little surprise question. I looked you up on LinkedIn, as I often do when I'm getting to know somebody, to see, what interests you and what kinds of things you're sharing there. And I noticed that you have a ritual around when employees join your company of not only, as I just discovered, giving them at least one book by Peter Fox Penner, which we can talk about in a minute, but also sharing the letter that former NRG CEO David Crane wrote. And I'm going to just read it and ask you to comment on that as a lead in to your orientation to us and Arcadia, please, for this session. So here is the letter from David Crane. And make no mistake about our children. They will hold all of us accountable, true believers and climate deniers alike. The day is coming when our children sit us down. In our dotage, look us straight in the eye with an acute sense of betrayal and disappointment in theirs, and whisper to us, you know, and you didn't do anything about it. Why? And for a long time, our string of excuses has run something like this. We didn't have the technology. It would have been ruinously expensive. The government didn't make us do it. So with that, I would love for you to just comment on that note and why it touches you and why it's something that you want to make sure every new employee sees and maybe it's part of your company culture as you see it. And then please tell us about yourself and Arcadia. Thank you.
Sure, thanks, Sarah. It is a powerful letter. And I will say, when I started the company, it was before I had kids. Right. And in hearing you read that again, now that I have two young ones, it's even that much more important. I think it's great to meet you all and be here today. Arcadia is on a mission to give everyone access to cleaner energy, whether you are rich, poor, live in a mansion, an apartment, doesn't matter. Everyone should be able to make those choices, right, for their life. And so when I think people join the company, they're joining a mission, right? And that's they're joining so their work matches their values. And so these are the things I want to inspire people as they come to Arcadia. Sarah said, so I'm Kieran Batraju. I'm the founder and CEO of Arcadia. We're a 6-year-old fast-growing technology company that's helping break barriers for access to cleaner energy. And so going back to what I just described, for a lot of you, cleaner energy is difficult. People don't understand it. There is an old monopoly utility structure. And these are the things where we're using technology to make it easier for people to access cheaper, cleaner, fossil-free energy and make that choice no matter where they live. And it's been, we have customers in all 50 states. We are the largest community solar manager in the country, which we can talk in more depth about later. And one thing I'll say is, in response to that letter, that was almost a decade ago that David Crane wrote that. And the beginning of the letter is about how Amazon, Google, Facebook, these companies that are inheriting the earth, they focus on the customer and deliver the customer what they want. And bizarrely, in energy, we're in a market where even if a customer wants clean energy, it's not that easy, right? And that's the thing we're trying to break and make simpler. But thank you for reading that. It is a really important document, actually, that we reference in the company often.
That's really great, and we'll get to more about how you message to consumers and make them realize that it is so easy and convenient to take advantage of what Arcadia is doing. So Carolyn, hi, welcome. Carolyn Schneider is director of the Climate Protection Partnerships Division at the EPA, and she has been for the past 5+ years. And I expressed some surprise when I first met Carolyn to say 5 years, and that means that you were at the EPA with a title that included the word climate in it. I thought we had scrubbed the word climate from the EPA during those past 4 years, but apparently Carolyn has been at work in a part of the EPA that has been very seriously focused on climate this entire time. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about that and about just blast out my misconception that climate had been totally taken away during the Trump era. Apparently, it was still there, live and kicking, with you running it. So let's hear about that, and then let's hear about whatever else you'd like to say to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Sarah, and it's really wonderful to be in this conversation with both of you and part of this wonderful conference. It was an honor to be invited. Speaking of mission-oriented, I just feel so fortunate to work at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Our mission is to protect human health and the environment, and it's such an amazing North Star to share with my colleagues. And that's where we take our direction from Congress with the funding that we were given and the mission that the agency continued to have under our statutory authorities. And it has been really one of the most amazing opportunities I've ever experienced in my career to get to work with the brilliant people at EPA who creatively build partnerships with private organizations, with consumers across the country, with state and local governments to advance clean energy strategies and work on climate change in a way that's complementary to our federal regulatory portfolio, but adds a significant addition. So with that, I'll briefly introduce Energy Star, which is one of the wonderful programs I get to work with. Energy Star is the government-backed symbol for energy efficiency. Our goal is to provide a simple choice for consumers and businesses to be able to purchase products, homes, and buildings that save money and protect the environment. You can find the Energy Star label on products in more than 75 different categories, everything from electronics to appliances, lighting, heating and cooling equipment, and much more. These products that earn that little blue label must meet strict guidelines for high energy efficiency that's set by EPA, and they're independently certified based on testing in labs recognized by EPA, which is why American consumers can have a lot of confidence in using the Energy Star label to help them make purchase decisions. In fact, research found that among those who recently purchased an Energy Star product, 70% report that they're likely to recommend Energy Star to a friend. And Energy Star far predated me at EPA. It's been around for almost 30 years, and it's a great example of what I was talking about, of public-private partnership, where the federal government can collaborate with thousands of manufacturers, retailers, utilities, local governments to help the environment in ways that are also good for the bottom line. And do these energy efficiency choices by millions of Americans really add up for the climate? We've had very ambitious goals talked about during this meeting. And a great example of that is the Energy Star program. Since 1992, Energy Star and its partners have helped save American families and businesses 5 trillion kilowatt hours of electricity, avoid over 450 billion in energy costs, and achieve 4 billion metric tons of greenhouse gas reduction. To give you a scale comparison, in 2019 alone, the emissions reductions from Energy Star were roughly equivalent to 5% of total US greenhouse gas emissions. So yes, the individual decisions of all of you choosing to join this meeting really can help prevent climate change, and you can make your energy choices count. Decisions you make today will help shape our world for decades and even centuries to come, and can make a really important contribution in support of a clean energy future. So please let Energy Star help you choose those energy efficient products, appliances, lighting, heating and cooling, electronics, etc. If you go to energystar.gov, you'll be able to find resources on how to identify those products, different features of them, and what available rebates exist from your local utility or governments or tax incentives. Our goal is to help remove those barriers and make action that much easier for those motivated. So thank you.
Thank you. And I think that everybody who goes to see what those 75 categories are will be just shocked and stunned and awed at how many different kinds of things that you can, I guess, all of them plug into the wall. Is that right? Every single one of them?
They are fueled by some sort of energy resource, yes.
Okay, there we are. There we are.
And I say it is a really fun part of work to get to go, what are we briefing on today? Oh, I didn't know about commercial cooking appliances. Or now we're doing pool pumps, lighting, heating equipment. I mean, it's remarkable the technological advances we have in our country.
That's incredible. So I want to ask both of you, when you think about the past year of the coronavirus and maybe the just bit of the ramp up ahead of it, which included, some beginnings of talking about who the next administration would be and climate action and rejoining the Paris Agreement and so on. How did that affect? How does this moment in history, which I believe is so consequential, I mean, we're all still grappling with a global pandemic, but those of us who have been vaccinated in this country, very fortunate, beginning to maybe see, beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm wondering how you think that this era will impact consumer demand for these kinds of really bold changes and easy changes that they can make in their everyday lives. I mean, in some ways, it seems to me that the coronavirus and our response to it has highlighted the ability for us to all change our behaviors in a much, more efficient, faster, accelerated fashion than we ever maybe would have thought imaginable. And that letter from David Crane where everyone's complaining, oh, we can't do this and that to combat global warming because it's too expensive, it's too hard, it's too inconvenient. Actually, we've just been through a whole bunch of expense and hard and difficult and inconvenient, and we survived quite well. So I'm just wondering if you might be able to sort of comment on that a little bit. And let's start with you, Kiran. Where do you think we are sort of as a consumer society, our receptivity to making the changes that we need to make and that Arcadia wants us to make?
Yeah, this is, I like to think a lot of the change we need to make around climate and attitudes is cultural. And, we sit in a unique position where we have customers in all 50 states. We see energy usage across all different living categories, customers everywhere. And, what's unique about the way consumers approach their home energy is they've sort of been put to sleep for 100 years, right? The utility was the only option, they're the monopoly. I sort of take for granted, and we've done an incredible job in this country of reliability until maybe recently. But reliability has always been strong on the US power grid. People turn on the lights and they don't realize that my home is actually the biggest contributor to my carbon footprint. It is my home. It is the built environment I live in, how the energy gets piped in and what that energy is. And I think for the longest time, pulling someone across to say, I need to get cleaner energy for my home was an educational journey you had to take someone on. And then COVID hit and everyone was home and everyone was working from home and everyone's realizing that their bills are going up. Right. And that moment of shock, I think that we saw was not just, hey, I'm paying more than I expected for this fixed cost of my home, but I'm also now thinking about that expense and that good that I use, that service I use in my life, and whether it's dirty or clean. And I think to your point, in the beginning of the pandemic, there were some incredible stories of what happened to the air we breathe and the water we drink when society sort of pauses for a minute. Not that that's what we have to do, but it was this amazing moment. I saw someone write, this is called the Anthropocene moment. It was sort of the anthropause. We got to see what society looked like. And so I think it was this amazing behavioral shift in this moment where people said, oh, there's this thing, like I'm thinking about my home energy for the first time in a very different way.
Right.
And so we've seen that in our business of so many more people wanting to know what options I have to choose cleaner energy and decarbonize.
It makes me think, is Arcadia squarely focused on residential customers? Not commercial?
Well, we actually I would say we expanded the business in the last year because of so much interest. We have hundreds of thousands of residential customers, and we now also service small businesses. A little bit more about Arcadia is we don't do rooftop solar. There are amazing companies that will help you put a power plant on your roof. At max, there's a small percentage of America that can actually do that. Where the options we provide customers are offsite virtual power purchase agreements where you could live in an apartment. You may have a home that has trees overhead, may have the wrong roof, may not own your roof, but you could connect to a new clean energy source nearby. And that's sort of the crux of community solar, which is what I think will inevitably be a bigger solar market than rooftop solar and available to everyone, right? The way we operate those programs too is there's no long-term lock-in, there's no credit, cutoff. Anyone can take part, and so that's been exciting for people to know that they have this option when they realize my power bill is going up and I don't want it to be dirty. What can I do?
Right, exactly. All right, and we come back to that. So, but Carolyn, please tell me what you think about this emerging post-COVID era and how consumers and Energy Star customers and potential Energy Star customers, how are we poised to respond to Energy Star?
I'd echo a couple of themes. We've shown the remarkable capacity for change in our society, right? And in our homes, and for innovation, for resilience, but also to our protecting our families and thinking about public good and investing in our communities. And I think a lot of those themes, people are seeing those connections, as Kiran was saying, between our purchasing decisions, our energy decisions. And in many ways, our worlds have now shrunk within these few walls, right? For almost a year. And it helps focus us on the choices we do make and that we can control. And we have seen significant increase in things like web traffic and use of our tools as people are there's many people working on their homes during all this time that we've been spending here. But I will say, another opportunity we've seen is we also work in commercial buildings, and we've lost some opportunities there around how we were managing our energy use in vacant or partially vacant buildings. And I think it really helped remind us all that this is not a once and done type process. There's always an opportunity to make our systems more efficient and our built environments more efficient. And I think it was a great wake-up call to many commercial sectors or companies, some of whom, had large drops in energy use in response to low occupancy, and some not. And one of, our focus of our program is to help provide those resources, whether it's to households or to companies. How are you doing relative to others? Can you get a sense of your benchmark? And I think it's another moment to help draw people's attention to that. One other piece I'd love to briefly add, because I didn't say this in my introduction, but we also have a Green Power Partnership program at EPA, which is focused on recognizing large organizations' leadership in voluntary renewable power purchasing. And we've seen a large increase in that. And exactly because of the business models we were just hearing about from Arcadia, which I think is just such an exciting space in the power sector, because and again, to get to the point of the magnitude, this commitment to renewable energy and voluntary procurement above and beyond regulatory requirements is now getting to a similar scale of those regulatory requirements. We read in the news about ambitious state and local policies, but these personal decisions by American households and companies to go above and beyond in renewable energy is of that similar magnitude, is really just, to me, so exciting and a really remarkable evolution.
It is exciting.
Due to innovations in new technologies and new business models that we just heard about. So that was my share of applause. So thank you.
That's just great. Really interesting. I have a million more questions for both of you, and we're going to get to at least some of them. But I also wanted to give invitation to the audience to please ask any questions that you'd like, and they'll be funneled right through, and we can ask those as well. I guess my next question is around, let's just drill into messaging, how you connect with your potential customer and end user. What kind of messaging works? Is it, I'm not going to qualify that at all. Oftentimes in climate communication, which is my area of research and expertise, we hear this debate about, should we be giving the message of doom and scare people into action, or should we be emphasizing instead the opportunity and the health benefits and the co-benefits of making these changes in your everyday life and for your businesses and in your governments and every which way that you possibly can? I happen to think it's great to have a combination, because you have to spell out the problem in order to really give some heft to the opportunities that we all have the agency to select in our own everyday lives, which is what you guys are making possible. So I'm wondering what kind of messaging works for you. Are there any special taglines or stories that you'd like to share about, when somebody really, the light, no pun intended, went off in somebody's head and said, I get it, I want to do this. So Kiran, go.
Yeah, I'll start. And I'm sure Carolyn has a lot with Energy Star. So we are direct to consumer. So we spend a lot of time thinking about this question. And the honest reality is, because there's so much information and disinformation out there, you kind of have to use different, at least from our perspective, you have to use a bit of a different messaging for different communities, because there's a lot of folks that are probably on this at this conference that are there and they want to understand their options and they just want to get educated on the different options. And that's great. And we can talk about climate change, we can talk about, there are people that just want cheaper energy, right? That is a different segment that may not care as much. And that is, for our community solar programs, we can guarantee 5 to 10% savings. And frankly, we don't even need to get into the clean aspect. Right. It's sort of a Trojan horse. We have a lot of folks that we label, what we label convenient environmentalists, right? So there's a high desire to do something, but it may seem very painful. And we have to use, and that's part of building the product so it's simplistic, but we've done some hokey things. We put the rapper T-Pain in a bathtub of coal and made a YouTube video out of it that still gets shared. I'll find it and share it in the chat for folks.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could.
We're trying to meet people where they are today. So digital advertising, talking about their home's impact, like your impact when you switch on the light. You don't need to do the doom and gloom. It can be very aspirational. Like, people buy Priuses not because they don't look great, but they want their friends to know that they drive a hybrid car. So there's things we can do to, especially in the world we live in today and the way people share so much, where they can sort of wear that impact on their sleeve. And I think that's something we help folks with. But really the doom and gloom is not, to me, it's not the thing that gets to scale, right? It's not the thing that gets someone to convert.
Right. Exactly. What about you, Carolyn? Any comment on that?
We have a very similar story with energy efficiency. It's crazy to say this is such a, communication expert. Different people are motivated, in different ways. And Indeed. The beauty of energy efficiency is it provides many different benefits that speak to different segments of society, whether that's cost savings, climate, air quality, health benefits, comfort, and convenience. For Energy Star, the verification that provides trusted performance. And there's those early adopters who just love the coolest new technology, right? Yeah. And we've had success leveraging market research on consumers to help tailor our messages. And as Kiran said, with the digital world, right, we're much more able now to have those kind of tailored messages reach the segments you're trying to reach. I will say across most segments, really the money savings is a message that tends to resonate the most strongly. But among those most likely to be receptive to saving energy, we also find a very positive response around the concept of family, making things better for their children. And that kind of broader public good message really resonates with people. And I think to the earlier conversation about home and family being that much larger a share of our world in the pandemic, I think we even more so see a strong motivation from people with that type of message. Again, segments.
I think so too. I think that messaging in general, that the pandemic has really forced us to be with our pods, right? And figure out who's most important to us. And that would be our families, I think. And So that is a very strong messaging to be using, even in B2B messaging as well, business to business. Okay, we have a couple of questions from the audience. So you guys ready? Yes, you are. Okay, the first one, weatherization insulation is likely the biggest bang for the consumer's buck in decreasing home carbon footprint. Would geothermal heating and cooling be the next step to take for someone who owns their home?
I'll jump in here. So heating and cooling is a huge part of the footprint, and the question is absolutely right. Like if you can get a ground source or an air source heat pump, those are the technical terms for geothermal is ground source, then you should absolutely do it. At the end of the day, it will still require some electricity to run, which is why choosing a renewable energy option, whether Arcadia or another one in the market, on top of retrofitting your home is the ultimate step to take. But there's a great company called Dandelion that's doing
Yes.
fuel switching in the Northeast.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a lot of local installers too. It's a great option for those that can do it.
Speaking of Dandelion, I just want to, and I'm not getting a cut or anything from them. I just wanted to give them a shout out because they've got some great messaging, I think. It's a very modern company, great approach, I think. Seems like they're targeting millennials and people with a really, really nice vibe. So Carolyn.
Yeah, I'll reinforce that point. I mean, the question asker is spot on. About half of your annual energy bill goes to heating and cooling, usually more than $900 a year for a household. And then, as Kiran said, the heat pump technology really is a very exciting space where you have efficiency benefits. And if you combine it with renewable power, you have massive climate benefits in addition to those efficiency benefits. And we at Energy Star have been focused on making sure those technologies work in all climates across the country. A challenge historically has been, is this really going to work for me in a cold climate? We've got someone from New England, and we're rolling out a new Energy Star certification specifically for cold climate options to help have so that consumers can have that trust in the performance.
That's great. I mean, even Texans are going to want that now with our polar vortex going bananas on us.
And the reminder, right? This serves heat pumps. They exchange heat. They can work to both heat your home and cool your home. And so there's this wonderful savings opportunity, especially with climate changes. We see more parts of our country also adding air conditioning and additional electricity load on their homes. I will add, maybe those are a bit, high budget items, or you're not. That's a bit much. And again, please go to our website for rebate opportunities, which there are many of across the country. But there's other opportunities to increase your HVAC efficiency, your heating and cooling efficiency. Yes, sealing and insulating your attic. And we've got some great kind of DIY tips for people on the Energy Star website. But even just checking your air filters, making sure that you clean or replace them, which is great for those of us suffering from allergies this time of year and broader concerns, as well as that HVAC maintenance tune-up that we all forget about until a system fails, and making sure, we build that into kind of your seasonal cycle, or other ways, in the meantime, to be looking at your heating and cooling efficiency in your home.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, and I should also add a connected thermostat. So Energy Star also certifies smart thermostats. So find a way to really make sure that you're heating and cooling your home when you need to. Right now, we're all in our homes, but that's not going to always be the case. And how do you optimize that? And also potentially partner with your utility to get benefits as well, so that you're helping your home be a grid resource, which is a really exciting opportunity as well.
It's so cool. Okay, so I want to ask both of you if you could look ahead year or two and tell me what you're going to be most focused on. We don't have too much time. We have about a minute for each of you to expound on this, but just wondering sort of what's ahead, what's on the whiteboard in your office, in your home office.
I'll say two things. One, I'll try to keep it under a minute. The expansion of community solar to me is the fastest and most exciting competitive energy trend. It's third parties building large scale solar that we can deliver to homeowners. And if we're actually going to decarbonize quickly and spread the benefits equally, which I think is a big problem for the last decade or two of rooftop solar, that's the way to do it. The other thing is the growth of EVs. We have so many electric vehicle customers who don't know the first thing about when to charge their vehicle. And we're building software to actually manage that for the customer based on the right times of day, based on your usage patterns. And that is just going to be, for those of you that haven't driven an EV, it's just a better product. It's just a better car.
Right.
It's more fun, but there's also a big energy component to it that we're going to be working on.
All right, that's awesome. We have a question for you, Kiran, from the audience, which is, I'm working on breaking down barriers to renewables in my community. How can I connect with Arcadia to learn from them? Would you ever consider having, an ambassador training or something like that to help you?
And you should shoot me a note. It's just Kiran@arcadia.com. We actually engage our members in the political process to get in touch with public service commissioners to expand programs.
Yeah,
we've been really successful with that. But our business is in the market of expanding and breaking down barriers, expanding markets. So, happy to connect and figure out ways to do that together.
Okay. All right, Carolyn, we have just a few seconds here, but I'm wondering if there are any last thoughts you'd like to say.
Sure. Last thought to your question I'd add is just, we know that achieving deep emissions reductions necessary to fight climate change will not be possible if we don't reach all Americans. Everyone deserves to be part of climate solutions, having access to safe, healthy, efficient, non-polluting homes powered by clean energy and with access to clean transportation. So a focus and a growing focus of our program is to make energy savings more accessible to low-income, minority, and underserved communities.
That is awesome. And that about wraps us up and ends us on a very high note. Thank you both so very much. And now back to the main American Climate Leadership Summit.